Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to episode 58 of the Rieg AD Wedding Show. Today we are discussing Uncle Bob. Do you know who's Uncle Bob?
It's not a family show.
It's a wedding show. Okay, I think to put it in perspective, let me start with my story I want to read.
I love this story.
Okay, so here's the story. A photographer went to a socialite party in New York. As he entered the front door, the host said, "I love your pictures. They're wonderful. You must have a fantastic camera." The photographer said nothing until the dinner was finished. Then, "That was a wonderful dinner. You must have a terrific stove." Story by Sam Haskins.
Dish.
So, to put the story of Uncle Bob in some sort of perspective,
Yeah.
over the years we've heard this many times, where we would quote for a wedding, and it's not just us. I think all the professional photographers out there and videographers will agree. And I sometimes think the videographers suffer from this even more than the photographers. But what happens is we'll quote, and then after a few communications back and forth between the couple and ourselves, we'll get an email saying that Uncle Bob, a family friend who's got a great camera, will take the wedding images.
As a gift.
As a gift, often as a gift. And that's great. I mean, I think we all want to try and save money. A wedding is an expensive affair. But I think we've often said that one of the only things that you keep after the wedding is your images.
Yeah, it's not just something we say, it's a fact.
It's a fact. It's a fact. So, as I said, Uncle Bob will take the photos, or a family friend. It's just a joke in the photography community to call him Uncle Bob. Now,
him or her.
We
even had an Auntie Bob.
Now,
many Auntie Bobs.
I want to make it clear, quite often Uncle Bob is a very distinguished photographer. They might have the latest and greatest camera gear. They might even have better camera gear than what we have. They might have the longest lenses. They might even have their photograph published in the VEG magazine on a regular basis, or things like that. But I think we try to set the scene with our story in the beginning that it's not just all about the equipment. We kind of agree that there's about three things that distinguishes a professional wedding photographer from Uncle Bob, or Auntie Bob, like you referred to her.
Auntie Bobolina.
Now, we've already said that equipment is not everything. But that being said, you cannot attempt a wedding without the right equipment. It doesn't need to be the best of the best of the best, but it needs to be specific to photographing weddings and specific to photographing people. Now, what often happens is Uncle Bob will have the greatest equipment, but he often only has one camera, and he's got a few awesome lenses, and he's most probably, in most cases, an established wildlife or sports photographer, or a very strong amateur photographer.
Or stills.
Well, macro and those sort of things, not photographing people. For those of you that know me over the years, I've presented many photography courses, and I do a lot of photography coaching. And that's often the thing that most people are afraid of, is photographing people. Yeah. They're very happy to photograph still lifes, nature, animals, etc., but they don't want to photograph people.
The smaller the thing they photograph, the less scared they are.
Yes, and the one thing of photographing a wedding is you are going to be photographing people from the moment you start until the moment you finish. So you need to be comfortable photographing people. And your gear...
And through all of their emotions.
Yeah, for all of their emotions and everything that the day throws you. And you need to be geared for that. So, as I said, gear is not everything, but having the right gear for the job is important. And often where Uncle Bob would fall short is lighting, or lighting equipment. Now, for those of you who've been at a wedding, I hope it's never happened to you where the photographer made you look straight into the sun to get a photograph of a group.
To get you litted.
That's one thing we will never do. We always turn our groups and our people with their backs to the sun, and then we fill in the light from the front. Now, for instance, to be able to do that properly, you don't need one flash. You need 4 or 5 flashes to actually fight the sun. Or you need professional levels, portable studio equipment that's battery operated. And that's the sort of stuff that a professional wedding photographer will carry with them to make it easy to get those beautiful shots of the family after the ceremony, where you're still photographing in quite harsh sunlight, without everyone squinting as they're looking into the direct sun. So small little things, but it makes a massive difference.
You know, it's always funny to me is when the family members, there's always a family member on your shoulder that's trying to take a photo with the setup.
Oh, yes.
With a phone.
But they're not triggering our lights.
Yes, they're not triggering the light, and then they tell us to turn the people around so that they can look into the sun so that the people are littered. I mean, if it's not a littered shot, it looks like silhouettes. And they think that it's going to come out like that.
So the bottom line, I mean, for us, the challenges as being a wedding photographer is the fact that you need to be able to photograph things that often happen very quickly. Sometimes you can't even predict it, even with experience. And then you've got constantly changing lighting environments. That's things that you need to work with. And I think to summarize the equipment tab, and I say this in the greatest respect, but anyone with enough money can buy the best gear out there. But that doesn't necessarily make you a good photographer.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the appropriate or the specific.
Well, even if you buy the right gear, it doesn't mean you can use it properly. You need to teach yourself to use that gear. And I think that brings us to the second point. There's a famous quote by Albert Einstein that says, the only source of knowledge is experience. Okay, so if you think about that, the only way you can really get experience is by photographing weddings. Now, I'm fully aware that everyone needs to start everywhere, and even for us, we did our first wedding in 2005, and we've spoken about it beforehand. But before we shot that wedding, we attended a lot of photography training courses, and we also did a wedding photography workshop to equip us for what we can expect at the day. Plus, the couple knew exactly what they were getting and the amount of experience we had.
Yes.
So I think as long as someone is 100% honest with you, it's great. But I honestly don't believe that your wedding should be the place for someone else to learn or practice their hobby.
Or
it's a service that someone must offer to you, and that service must be offered to a world-class level. So that's the thing. I mean, experience cannot be bought. You can buy the equipment, but you cannot necessarily buy the experience. That is only gained by doing wedding upon wedding upon wedding. And I think we always say, every single wedding we photograph, we learn something new.
For sure.
And I think the interesting time for us now is with COVID, we weren't shooting weddings, but we were literally using our equipment. We're using our equipment right now. We're filming this. I mean, we're actually using our equipment almost more than what we did, getting to know it even better, understanding it better. And I think it'll equip us even better to photograph the next wedding when we get there. So there's one more point that we believe is a big difference. And for me, that's 80's speciality, and it's just as important as taking the photo. I actually sometimes want to say it's sometimes even more important.
I don't think so.
We can agree to disagree. And that is post-processing of the images. Now, again, if you have the best camera in the world, and that camera is simply put on auto, and it's allowed to write those images as JPEGs, applying the manufacturer's best guess settings and call it recipe for sharpness and saturation and those things. My simple analogy here was like having a 6-speed car and driving it in third gear all the time. Sure, you're probably going to get there, but you are missing out a hell of a lot of what you can get. And I think that's one thing we learned. I mean, the cameras we use are able to capture incredible detail, and they're able to capture incredible dynamic range, but you need to process those images correctly to extract that.
Yes.
You can't just simply press a button for all 800 or 700 images of a wedding day and they come out correct. You literally process every single image independently and individually. And for me, that is as much an art form as the whole art of photography. So I think our idea of our discussion today was by no means to disrespect Uncle Bob out there, but I think we wanted to set the scene or explain to our clients why it's often not a good idea to have Uncle Bob photograph your wedding.
Yes.
I mean, it's a once-off opportunity. It happens only once. There's no chance on the day to stop, reset everything and restart and redo it. You need to be ready. You need to have the right equipment. You need to have a backup equipment. And it's another thing that I haven't touched on. Even before we start the post-processing, one of the most important things we do is to safeguard the images. So from us being professionals, we use cameras that have 2 memory card slots. And as we photograph on the day, every single image gets written to 2 memory cards simultaneously. So already in camera, we're making a backup. So if, lo and behold, you ever have a situation of a memory card failing, you have another memory card to fall back on. And again, there we use the best possible memory cards money can buy. And in 15 years, we've never had an issue because we use high quality memory cards. We don't use the cheap stuff you buy at any shop. And then when we get home from a wedding, we don't go to bed until we've actually copied every single piece of photograph or every single image and video clip onto our working drives, as well as make at least one backup. And then keeping in mind the memory cards are backups as well. So only then do we go to bed, because we are serious about safeguarding our clients' memories. And that's part of offering a professional service. And I think in conclusion, with our story that we started about the chef, if you want Michelin star quality food, you don't need a great stove. You need a great stove with a Michelin star chef. So if you want great quality photography, you need world class and the best photography equipment money can buy. And I'm all for that. And we invest heavily in equipment and gear. And I'll actually put an image here of all the equipment we carry with us when we actually photograph and film a wedding. But in order for that equipment to work properly, you need a professional world-class photographer to operate the equipment. And only then will you get world-class photography. So we hope that illustrates the point. Uncle Bob, we're sorry. We're not trying to take away business from you.
Sorry, not sorry.
There's a reason why we don't do a lot of wildlife and all those other sort of all of those other sorts of things, because it's not our speciality.
It's our hobby.
Those other things are our hobby.
Totally our hobby.
It's not what we do as a business. It's about specializing and doing what you do to the best of your ability. So if you have any questions, or if you are planning your wedding for late in 2020, we're all hoping 2021, please get in contact with us. We would obviously love to photograph and film your wedding. And also subscribe. I mean, we love to grow our channel. If you liked our video, give it a thumbs up. Please share. And remember, when we get to 1,000 subscribers, we'll be giving away that Rieg AD family lifestyle or couple shoot to the value of 3,000 Rand, as well as a nomination bracelet with 3 links. And we'll have a video up on top of that as well. And all you have to do is be a subscriber. So thank you very much for watching. It's weekend. Enjoy your weekend.
It's the weekend, baby.
Yes. And we'll see you on Monday. Cheers.
Bye, guys.